among young and budding journalists. Dr. Rekha Shelke ma'am is one of the legendary figures of journalism in this particular city, in this particular region. Her contribution to the field is immense, something that she does not speak often about. But the fact that she created this institution from a scratch, there was a time when journalism was not a big thing here in this particular region, but she created this academic institution. The faculty members, Dr. Tanveer, Dr. Zainab, Madam Yu, and Dr. Joshua Boyd, the postdoctoral research fellow here, young students, it's a great honor. When I was growing up and when I was trying to do journalism, the most important thing that was taught to us at that time was that a journalist should not be seen. He should not be seen. The journalists were not supposed to be on this side of the arc light. They were supposed to be on the other side. Because the story was not the journalists themselves. The story was what you were seeing and then you were reporting. You were basically a via media. You were basically a bridge between the news and the readership. But times have changed. Unless and until you are on the camera, you are on the face, unless and until you are on social media, you cannot tell any story. Now people talk about lived experiences. What is your experience? How do you see the world? Through what lens do you see? What are your perspectives? What is your angle? We all are different. There are different stories from different perspectives. We tell stories from a different point of view. There are multiple angles. We don't know where the truth lies. Because when we were doing a story, and of course you people are doing the stories as well, there are always different shades of a story. When you listen to one particular person, you think this is the final truth. This is the story. But when you go to the other side, you see that there is a totally different perspective. Things are totally different. Same thing is happening. Is this Hudhaifa? Yeah, Hudhaifa. Hudhaifa wrote a story for us in the new chapter. Things are totally different when you see from a different point of view. There is a famous story about the hunter and the hunted. The hunter is hunting a lion and saying the story that, I hid behind the bushes. I got hold of the tiger. I killed the tiger. I was so brave. I was not afraid and all kind of thing. But nobody knows the perspective from the tiger's point of view. Maybe the tiger scared this guy completely. Maybe he was completely overawed by the tiger. But the tiger cannot tell his story. So we have only the story of a person who's the hunter. The person who's hunted, we don't know the story. Unless you go into the skin of that particular subject, you will never get to know the other side of the story. So there are always perspectives. Also, we cannot have fixed ideas about anything. 20, 30 years ago, I had a different point of view of governance. Now it's a different point of view altogether. We learn, we evolve. What are our views maybe when we were doing schooling? Totally different. When we started journalism, we thought, we are going to change the world. No, we are not here to change the world. This is not our job. Our only job is to report what we see, and truthfully and accurately and within the given. In Gulf countries, there are multiple things. There are things that you can say, there are things that you cannot say. In every country, there are different traditions, there are different red lines, something that you can cross, something that you cannot cross. But you have to keep taking the chances, what we call pushing the envelope. You push the envelope, you see, you try, you see, can we go ahead? Can we say this? Can we put it a little further? And then we realize that what things can we say? And it's a gradual thing. It's a very incremental thing. Nothing happens out of the blue. So things that I see, I'm from print media. I'm not from television. Television is a different ball game altogether. You people, have such state of the art facilities here, high-tech facilities of editing, documenting, camera work. The totally different. When we were doing this story, it was a very simple kind of thing. You have to do the 5 W's, what, where, when, how, say the story in a pyramid form kind of thing. So when we had an accident, there was an intern who came and wrote, there was an accident near Chikalthana airport, There were 2 cars that were, in a head-on collision. And then all kind of stories, and there were multiple people there. And in the end, it was said that 3 people died. So our news editors would be shocked. They said, what the hell are you talking? 3 people died. Here's the story. You have to bring that particular aspect up front, that 3 people died in a car accident or something. So those were the simple rules of journalism. But those rules of journalism are completely changed. Here, the reporters, person who's telling the story, is the most significant aspect of the news, because that is the person that people trust. And I want to tell you that trust is built over time. When credibility is something that cannot be attained overnight. You can do 2 podcasts, you can do 2 YouTube videos or something, but readers are very sharp. They are going to continuously watch you as to what you are saying. What did you do in the first thing? Were you truthful in your account or no? And that thing matters a lot, and you then attain credibility. So every time when you write something, then people automatically trust, oh, Trupti has written this, okay, this is fantastic, this has to be good, because she does not take a chance. I don't know who Trupti is here, but I'm just taking a name. So you earn credibility over time. It does not come, it does not come instantly. It takes time. Same is the case with your social media account. If there is an Instagram account, and if you're trying to do something on Instagram, you have to be consistently good, consistently honest, consistently accurate. If you lose sight of accuracy, and if you do something, you see, the problem with the written word and the problem with audios and videos is nothing, when you have a digital footprint, you cannot erase it. You cannot remove it. It's going to be there. What I did 18 years ago is right there on the web, so I cannot change it. I was in America, and I was not giving a lecture, but I was doing a Q&A with the students there at Washington. I was talking to them. They asked me a question about how do you cover, at the time there was a war in Gaza, in Palestine, and they asked me a simple question. That, Mr. Wahab, how do you cover the war in Gaza? So I explained. I said, this is what we do. We try to have different versions. We have a different perspective or something. And they were very impressed. But you know what? When I realized this in 2007 in the American university, people had their own laptops. They had their, students, would come with their laptops. Here, we can barely bring our mobile phones in the classroom or something, and the teachers will be very upset, kind of thing. And then while I was giving the lecture and I was answering that question, somebody told me, he said, sir, you just told us that this is how you cover the war in Iraq, but your editorial is completely different than what you are telling me. I said, where did you get that from? He said, here, I have opened your newspaper here, and this is what you have written. And I was completely flummoxed that here are the students in America who are asking questions. It's a very questioning society. You don't take anything at face value. He said, Mr. Wahab, you've said something so and so, but I don't agree with you, because this is my perspective. This is the American way of thinking. Critical questions are being asked. So constantly we have to ask questions of ourselves. Never shy away from asking questions. Somebody, initially when we thought, when we go to a press conference, people are shy. Not many journalists raise their hands that we want to ask a question, because some people think, we may ask a very stupid question. Or maybe we will sound very dumb. But that is what the role of a journalist is, to sound dumb. Why? Because you are doing a duty for the reader. That dumb question that you think is a dumb question is a question that a reader wants you to answer. And you are playing a part for that reader. It's not that you. Of course, times have changed. These are very difficult times. We have very difficult presidents who don't care about the media. You have a president of the United States, who openly calls journalists fake media. I'm not going to answer your question. He tries to bully you and all that. But that is the role of a journalist. What are we there for? We don't represent ourselves. We represent a certain section who wants us to ask that question. They expect us to do our duty, and that is our duty, to ask questions. We must continue to ask questions. We must not shy away from difficult questions. We must have a follow-up question as well. We can do interviews. I can do an interview here, and it can be a very soft interview. But within the questions or within the answers, I will have to evolve. I have to bring in more questions so that people know that we have done our homework. And homework is very important. I come here and I don't know what MGM is. I don't know who Madam Rekha Shelke is. I don't know who the faculty members are. I don't know who the students are. I have not seen their work. I don't know. No. This is not how it is done. Journalism is constant questioning, and you constantly evolve. at this age, even after 30 or 35 years in the profession, I can't call myself to be a thoroughbred journalist. No, we learn. I learned from you, you learn from us. It's a very, it's a cooperative kind of a thing that we need to learn from each other. Talking about journalism in Gulf, I tell you, each country has a different perspective. The war has happened between Israel, US, and Iran. We thought that this is somebody else's war here in India. We thought, so what? They are fighting, let them fight. But when there were long queues at the petrol pump, when there were long queues for cooking gas, when we realized that we had to have subsidy from the government, that's when we realized that the world is completely integrated. We are not living anymore in isolation. This is a globalized world. What happens in one part of the world affects our part of the world as well. So we all are global citizens. We are not alone. So when we say that we don't want war, so we are saying that nobody should be affected. It's not just Saudi Arabia. It's not just the Gulf countries. It's not just America. It's not just Israel. It's not just NATO or Europe or something. We are affected as well. So there is a movement. When journalists keep calling, everybody has to realize that we must think about the larger goal, that all of us play a part in this universe. We all have a role to play. Every single person sitting here or sitting outside, sitting on this campus, sitting outside the campus has an important role to play. We all have an important role to play. And I congratulate you on choosing journalism as a subject at a time when people do not have a lot of respect for journalism, because these are tough times. Because journalists, also, the world of journalism looks so glamorous from the outside. You think you are the Shah Rukh Khan of the media world. It's not like that. It's very hard work. Lot of hard work. When you go out onto the field, Madam Rekha was talking about a concept called Baimanus. These are people, grassroots people, working in remote corners of the state. It's not easy to write a sentence in English, to write a report in English, to talk to people and to reproduce exactly what they have said in word, in letter, in spirit, not to be misconstrued or misjudged or misquoted is a very important. When you write something, you have immense responsibility on your shoulders. You have to carry that responsibility with a lot of respect, because with that respect will come a lot of credibility for you. With that credibility, you will make a name for yourself. When you make a name for yourself, you make your city proud. When you make your city proud, you make your country proud. When you make your country proud, you make your fraternity proud, and you make all of us proud. I'm open to take all kinds of questions. Thank you very much. I hope I did not bore you. Thank you. See, this is why you are a journalist, that you have to make a very informed opinion based on whatever material is available to you. And then as a journalist, you have to go beyond that, because everybody who's writing has a hidden agenda. We are living in a very polarized world. So I may have an opinion, I've put it on X, but there's nobody to challenge me. I've written something on X. Mr. Siraj Wahab has written, who knows, right or wrong. But you have to go to the other point of view, the contrarian point of view. That's why in the newspapers, we used to have the op-eds, the opinion page, and the opposite opinion page. So the opinion page was the opinion that the newspaper, in-house newspaper opinion kind of thing. The op-eds were rejoinders of people who were independent analysts and independent thinkers. Their point of view was contrary to what the newspaper was telling you. So there was very open space, open discussion. So what you have to do is, you have to make an informed guess, an informed decision of what is right, and read between the lines. We always used to say, there are things that you cannot say everything in black and white. Sometimes you have to read between the lines. What is the writer trying to say? And why is he not saying it in black and white? Because there are constraints that he wants the reader to draw their own conclusions. Same as the books. When there is something written in the book or something, you don't read at the face value. You read between the lines. ये कहना क्या चाह रहा है? इसके पीछे इसका क्या राज है? Why is he saying, or why is he saying, why is he giving this kind of an example? So you have to make an informed guess based on all the sources available to you. But because I'm from print media, I'm a little biased towards the print media than the other. I'll tell you why. In my newspaper, for example, the Arab news, people now call. People call and they say, is this the Arab news? Yeah, this is the Arab news. We heard so and so thing. Is this true? So what have we become as a newspaper? We no longer report news. Honestly, we no longer, what are we doing? We are fact checking. So the news is already there on Instagram and we can't beat. No new print medium can beat anybody. The news is already there. There is no credibility to these news sources on social media because there's no check, there's no balance. People are calling the newspapers because they know that there is a mechanism in the newspaper through which they check the veracity of the news, the accuracy of the news. Why? Because we have multiple layers. So if Dr. Zainab has brought a news, for example, in a newsroom, and we talk to Dr. Joshua that something that she said is, can this be correct? Without we telling him that we heard this from somewhere else. So there is independent verification. आप, आपके पास अब ये जो बैंक में है 2-step verification होता है, OTP आता है. We are the OTPs. We are the phone numbers, the newspapers. So people call and we become fact checkers. So news is there. Accident happened and all that. But did Arab News, did Lokmat Times, did Lokmat, did Divya Marathi report it? And if they report it in print, then people say, yes, I read it in the newspaper. It's correct. It's not I heard. मैंने सुना, मैंने देखा. People don't. And the print word has a retention value. I don't know about the young generation because I can't speak for them. But for my generation, unless and until something was in print, we never believed anything. The printed word was the last word. Thank you, Aditi. Yes.
It's very glad to have you here.
Thank you.
The question is, sir, considering that you are coming from Saudi Arabia, and when it comes to India and Saudi Arabia, we share some same censorship rules when it comes to printing and reporting. So, under these circumstances, when censorship is very bold and large when it comes to reporting, so how do you tackle the censorship when it comes to reporting, and how do you suggest how we should report under these censorship rules?
Very good question. And it applies not just to Saudi Arabia or anything, it applies to everywhere. So if something controversial has happened, there's a very controversial news that is going around or something, and as a journalist, we are in a catch-22 situation. What do? Do we report? If we report, we run the risk of, being thrown somewhere else or being thrown out of the country. Something that doesn't happen. But there is a perception, and it's all over the world, not just in the Gulf and all. So there is a story going around on social media, for instance, a very controversial story or something, and then somebody within the government takes note of it. And what do they do? The government, the job of the government is to deny. That's the job of the government. Anything that is controversial, anything that is remotely negative about a country or something, they will deny. That's the first response of any government. We hear as well, in other parts of the world as well, in the Trump administration, they say denying. So you take the denial and you write the story. What is being denied? So denial is the story. You get my point? So when somebody is denied that Hudhaifa has not done this, that gives me the opportunity to tell as to what Hudhaifa has done. That is being denied. And reader is very smart. He knows denial is confirmation. He knows that what is being denied, the reporter has said the whole story, and he has left to the judgment and to the discretion of the reader to draw their own conclusions. So denial is the story. Journalists are very smart people, as you are. Smart people know how to convey their message across. There are ways and means. You don't have to say everything in black and white. There are things that are left unsaid. There are things that are left unspoken. But the unspoken word is the strongest story within the story. So you have to, during emergency in 1975, journalists had a very tough time reporting stories during this Indira Gandhi's time and all that. But that is when the creative energy of the journalist was at its peak. People knew how to tell a story. They would left something blank, just put the headline or something. People know what to read. They would say, okay, you fill in the blank, and people know exactly how the story is told. So you have to be very ingenuous. You have to be very creative, even on air, even in print, on how to tell your story. Because everybody has a different way of storytelling. And the world is all about storytelling. And everybody has a different story to tell and a different perspective. So you continue making creative ways of telling your story despite all the restrictions. This is how it is done. We cannot say, we cannot complain, oh, I cannot write because there are restrictions. No, that's a challenge. That's the challenge that you have to overcome. That's the challenge for which you have to find answers. You have to find ways. And there are people intelligent enough who say it in the form of satire, in the form of comedy, in the form of jokes, in the form of parables. Hunter and hunted stories that I tell you. People get the message. They say what he is alluding to. Readers are far too. We don't give credit to readers, and I want to tell you, readers are the smartest people. They know exactly. They can see through you just by reading 4 paragraphs about you. They know exactly where he's coming from, what he wants to say, and what is his story. Thank you, Huzaifar. Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I have a question related to the news portal you work for, the Aram Way, because it is based out of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and as we know, it is a monarchy. And how hard it is to work under a monarchy, especially in this field where you have to inform something that might hurt the governance.
Yeah.
And is there room for criticism?
Yeah.
For the royal family or for the king who's sitting on the throne? Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't get your name.
Zed.
Zed? Yeah. So Zed, there are a lot of myths about monarchy. Things that people think that you do something, you'll be thrown into jail or something. Nothing of that sort. I'll tell you a story. In 2018, there was a guy. He was an Indian guy. He was jailed, and his case went to court. The court pronounced that the guy should die. He was on the death row. And the crime that he committed was that he killed somebody who was a local guy, local native. And so the judgment, there's a law there, an eye for an eye. Unlike us here, it's a different law there. It's a Sharia, where if somebody kills somebody, the punishment is that you have to lose your head. It's like this, very simple. And you may disagree, or we may disagree, or whatever, but there is peace in that country, total peace. The crime rate in Saudi Arabia is absolutely almost nil. You can do this. The Western news agencies will not tell you. Reuters, Associated Press, AFP, DPA will not tell you this story. Because why? We in journalism are vultures. We thrive on the dead. We're vultures. More the number of dead, bigger the front page headline. Because we thrive on that. I mean, it's a fact of life. On social media, people want to get reach. So, they sensationalize. Same thing. In that country, Zaid, that you're talking about monarchy, in monarchy there is absolute freedom to write what you want to write, provided you have documentation, provided you have foolproof sources, provided you are not casting aspersions on somebody because something that is written, and if you injure the personality of a certain person, there is no way you can return the dignity back to that person if you're wrong. So you have to take multiple things. So I was talking about the case in which this guy was on a death row. And the judgment came, and the judgment explained that this guy acted in self-defense, that he was being wronged by his employer, who happened to be a native guy. But because the law stipulates that nobody should harm the other person, and should not take the law into their own hands, and should leave this to the judgment of the judges and to the judiciary and to the court. And because of that, because he took law into his own hands, he was given a death sentence. Some people, the Indian consulate or something in 2017-18, they approached Arab News saying that this guy, acted in self-defense, he was the wrong person, and he's put on a death row, it's not okay, kind of thing. So we had an editor-in-chief called Dr. Khalid Al-Maina. I was reporting to him, he was the editor-in-chief. And he said, and I told him that this judgment is in Arabic, and we translated the whole judgment. It was 60-page judgment, long hand on. And we translated the whole thing, ran through the editor-in-chief. He said, can we speak to the other guy? What happened? We spoke to the relatives of the person who died or who was killed by this guy. And they corroborated the story. This is the story that happened and all that. And the guy was from Uttar Pradesh, young guy. And so we wrote the story in the newspaper. Nobody would believe it here, or nobody would believe it anywhere, that we wrote a story that this young man was being wronged by the system, and he should be given clemency, he should be released because he acted in self-defense. We wrote the story. The story was noticed by the government, by the Minister of Law, and they reviewed the whole case, and they found that this guy acted in self-defense, and he was released. He was released, he was sent back home. When you talk about monarchy, I don't think you will believe that there can be a story like this, but we did the story. So you have to be, unlike here. Here, I can say Mr. Zaid, Mr. Huzaifa, did something wrong without any proof. I just wrote it because there is no fear of accountability here. I can write your faculty member about your faculty member. I can write about any number of guys. But there is no fear of accountability. You might say, oh, this is wrong and all that, but there is nothing that you can do about it. In that part of the world, you have to be 10,000 times sure when you write anything about Siraj Wahab, if you write anything about Dr. Zainab, if you write anything about MGM, if you write anything about Dr. Rekha Shelke, if you write anything about Huzaifa or Zaid, you have to be 10,000 times sure. And we have reported cases of corruption in the government where wrong contracts were given, where money was made, when corruption took place in the building of civilian infrastructure. We wrote, people were jailed. Monarchy, don't think that monarchy does not work in isolation. If within a monarchy there is no sense of justice, then people will revolt. People are happy. Crime rate is zero. This is a success. When you have a monarchy and it is a benevolent monarchy, it works well. But this is just one perspective. You can have a different perspective. Thank you, Zaid.
Hello, sir. Ritesh this side.
Yes, Ritesh.
I have two questions. First question regarding your personal journey from pursuing undergrad and postgrad in Baba Saheb Marathwada University, and then joining Arab News in 1998 and till the managing editor of Arab News. Please share the journey. And the second question, you mentioned about the accountability in India and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. How do you see Indian media when you started pursuing journalism till now, and what international organization, how do international organizations see Indian media? Like, we are the future of Indian media as of now, we can say. So, yes.
Yeah. Ritesh?
So,
Ritesh is a very long question. It will take, I don't know, the whole. And I am very shy about talking my own story, and I feel a little uncomfortable. In 1987, March 31, Rajendra Dardaji started a newspaper called Lokmat Times. In 87, Lokmat, the Marathi edition, was a huge success. It was a very big thing. This place where you are sitting, this was a total barren land. In 87, I used to bicycle my way from the city chowk to this place called Lokmat Times. I used to pass by this area. This was all barren. There was nothing. There was no MGM, nothing. There was only one building, and that was JNEC, Jawaharlal Nehru Engineering College. There was nothing here. I used to bicycle. So 1987, I came when the newspaper was being launched, at that time the chief minister of the state was Mr. Shankar Rao Chauhan, S.B. Chauhan. And the information minister in the federal government, in the union government, was Mr. Vittal Rao Gadgil, V.N. Gadgil. There was one more attraction on that day of the inauguration. There was Shatrughan Sinha. We used to call him Shotgun. He was a rage at that time. We used to watch films and all. Shatrughan Sinha was a very big, a very big attraction. Of course, there was no Kapil Sharma show at that time and all that, so we did not know much. So this was our star moment. So I came to this Lokmat Times lawns. I came on a bicycle. And I heard from people that they were coming out with a special edition on the first day of the newspaper. And it was a 60-page color supplement. It's a very good first edition. And I thought maybe, I had no invitation. I had just done my class 12 from a local school. But I had a passion for reading books and reading magazines and all. So I came to this place, a young guy, and I did not know whether the guards will allow me or not, because there was a huge pandal, a huge floral, red carpet kind of thing for people and all that. I came and I listened to the story. There was one guy who was a very famous journalist called Kuldip Nair. May his soul rest in peace. Kuldip Nair was a rage. His columns were liked by hundreds and thousands of people. He was a very good writer. So I came and I saw Kuldip Nair there, and I saw the event from a distance, because how can a young guy, just 18 or something, just out of 12, and in such I'm overawed. So at the end of the event, of course, they distributed sharbat and all that. I also snatched one or took something in the corners or something. And I took 2 copies of the newspaper. They were special edition, they were very colorful edition. I took them and I came home and I told my father, look, father, I went there. He said, did you go that far to Janna Road? Because Janna Road was out of bounds. Nobody would cross Central Naka at that time. This Naka, nobody would cross. This bridge was not there. This whole Janna Road was a one-way track. It's not big. Anyway, he said, people who would come to Akashvani, where Akashvani is there now, if you know the topography, people would come to Akashvani, people say, oh my God, we went to Akashvani and we came back. It was such a huge thing. Anyway, I went running back, I saw the newspaper, and something struck me. Because in that newspaper, Lokmat Times, every single person from outside the state. Why? Because there was no English journalism here. There was no English journalism. There were only 2 reporters here. One was, I'm sure he came here and delivered a lecture. His name was Mr. Sanjeev Onhale. He used to write for Times of India, and there was another guy who used to write for the Indian Express. His name was Arif Sheikh. Only 2 people in English. So when I heard and saw the bylines, K.T. Chako, K.M. Joseph, K. Raghavendra, V.R.N. Nair, Viras, all kinds of people who came from outside the state, because we had no English journalism. So it was a totally new subject and a new area. And when I went after March, in April, May, June, I went and I started writing letters to the editor. In those days, there used to be a yellow postcard for 15 paise, very small. I would write and scribble something and write and give it to the guard there. The guard would pass it on to the editorial department. And the next day, the letters would appear. The letters would appear in very spick and span, absolutely polished English. Beautiful English. And I would never tell anybody. So this is what I wrote. And I know it was completely rewritten. Not a word of mine was in that letter. Not one word was in that letter, but I would pretend as if I have written this. And so what happened was, I would take these letters and show it to my department heads. Said, ma'am, I have written this. I said, oh, fantastic. Did you write this? Yeah, ma'am. I wrote this. I hardly knew the language, hardly knew how to construct a good sentence in English or something. But I would take credit and all that. But the thrill of seeing your name in the newspaper in black and white is something that you cannot describe in words. You cannot. Nobody can describe. It is something that you sleep with. It is something that you dream about. It is something that you always think about. Look, I have written, this is my name. Because we all are into the business of vanity. We all want to look good. We all want to impress everybody else. If there is something we are a victim of FOMO, fear of missing out something. We want to be there, part of the action, piece of the cake. So the byline was the most important thing, and that's how I started writing. And then one day the editor called me. He said, "Why don't you join as a trainee sub-editor?" I said, "What will I do?" I was in my first year BA. They said, "No, you don't have to do anything. Just sit next to a guy called Mr. Jambunathan." Jambunathan was at the time the head of the PTI, Press Trust of India. So just sit next to him. He will ask you a couple of questions. You respond to those questions, and he will write the story. Oh, I said, this is the easiest job in the world. Talking is very cheap, and we can do all kinds of talking. So because Jambunathan came from outside, he did not know the local politics. I knew a lot of local politics. I knew the local names. So I would boast about, yeah, I know about this. Oh, this corporator, I know. He comes from this area. He has done this. He has done that. Oh, this area, Osmanpura, I know. And they were very impressed. And I was also very impressed. I was trying to order. And then eventually I joined the newspaper. That's how my journey started. So I keep thanking Mr. Rajendra Dada all the time. Why? Because he provided the platform for English journalism. He provided the ecosystem through which we could rise. It gave rise to so many different journalists from this particular city. And as the saying goes, if you are not telling your own story, somebody else will. And because we were able to tell our story from this particular city, we were able to capture the narrative, and we were able to tell the right stories in the original format, from the horse's mouth, from the real people who were actually going through that, and not somebody who's coming from outside, parachuting from outside, and telling our story. No, we were here, we were telling our own stories. And that's how I started. About journalism credibility, credibility is something that you earn. What we were doing then also is being done now under different circumstances. People outside, in my newsroom, in abroad, in Arab News, in Washington Post, in New York Times, you pick up a newspaper anytime and you will see an Indian name there, an Indian byline there. We are highly respected. Indians are highly respected for a multiple and a variety of reasons. We are humble. We don't boast. Our funda is very clear. Our teachers, our faculty members have given us the best education that is available. We may not be very flamboyant. We may not be very articulate or something, but our fundas, our basic principles are very clear. And this is what this MGM University is doing. And you people have to seize the narrative and tell your stories under very challenging circumstances. Nothing has changed. The role of journalism has not changed, nor will it ever change. Storytelling, accuracy, truth. These are three things on which this institution is also built by our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. Stick to the truth. Whatever the circumstances, truth will ultimately prevail. क्या कहते हैं सत्य पराजित हो सकता है एक there is a sentence. Yes, सत्यमेव जयते. No questions anymore. But this side we took all the questions from this side. Yeah, go ahead.
What happened in 26/11 attacks, many journalists were reporting from ground. So terrorists were getting information through that. So what limits should journalists remember while reporting from ground, especially during war situations?
What's your name?
Agrani Gite.
Agrali? Gite. Thank you for a very important and very relevant question. You see, we all have to remember that the country's interests are paramount. That is above everything. At no point in time, through our work, should a country be harmed in any way. That's the primary reason for a journalist, always. We have to ensure that is the information that you're writing, is it helping the enemy? Is it helping the enemy of the country? Then you should desist. And this is a call that you have to take as a journalist. There are things that we know, so many things that we know. Do we tell all the stories? No. There are things that happen within our family. Do we go out and reveal those? No. So there is a conscious decision that you have to take as to what will harm the interest of the nation. And each individual has to decide that. But there is something greater than that. The government of the day should be able to tell the journalist of what can be misconstrued. You are reporting truthfully of what was happening, unfortunate incidents, 26/11, highly unfortunate, people being killed by terrorists who came from across the country through boat and all that. But the government of the day should be very clear, honest, that look, while we respect your journalistic standards and journalistic ethics and all, but there is something this can be misconstrued. It is only later, after 26/11, when Barkha reported from that Taj, only later did we realize that her reports were being used by someone else. But in that point of time, did Barkha know that somebody else was benefiting from that? No. That's when you have to give Barkha the benefit of doubt, because she was a journalist there. She did not know what was happening with her story. Like every story, when you write a story and you leave it to the readers. You have no control over the story after it is written. We don't know how the reader will perceive it. We don't know how the reader will take it. We don't know where this story will be used. We don't know how long this story will remain on the internet. We don't know who's going to use that against you, against your country. So this is the government that needs to tell that, look, this can be misconstrued. So after 26/11, we took all the precautions from the government. Look, if you do live reporting from certain other people are, doing this and using that, the broadcast kind of thing. So as a journalist, it's your duty to report truthfully. It is for the government. It is for the people who are in the positions of power, who know what we don't know, to tell us that this shouldn't be used because it might be used against the country. But at no point in time, journalists, we must use discretion that the country should not. Country remains first. That's the first and foremost responsibility. But this should not be, this should not be seen as an, some governments use that excuse to stifle original reporting as well. They might say, okay, this corruption, but please don't write about it because, this will harm a certain project or something. No. We want the story to be out in the public domain. That's the public domain. But if it affects the country, then no. I would advise a no. But it's your judgment call. I think, yeah. Huzaifa has a follow-up question as well.
Sir, as you have mentioned about the Iran and Israel war that is currently going on. So, sir, are you facing any hurdles when reporting this war? Because Saudi Arabia has a very stern and firm stance on Iran. They consider themselves an enemy, so. Is there any hurdle coming in your way while reporting this war?
No, absolutely not. And you see, this is also wrong. There is no black and white. When you say that Iran is the enemy of Saudi Arabia, that's not true. There are certain aspects of Iranian policies that Saudi Arabia is not happy with. If Iran is the enemy of Saudi Arabia, then there would have been no agreement between Saudi Arabia and Iran brokered by China. They've been friends, kind of thing. There are no hurdles in war reporting. The only problem in a war is that truth is the first casualty, because in the fog of war, you don't know what is right and what is wrong. So you just say, okay, we have the American version, we have the Iranian version. The Iranians say that we have attacked a ship. The Americans say that nothing happened. It was just a laundry fire or something. So those who are in a position to distinguish between the two can take an informed call as to what is the right thing. But for us, for readers, you have everything in the domain and you have to make an informed decision on that. So no, there are no hurdles at all. And you cannot have hurdles in this day and age where every single person is, has a mobile phone in his pocket. Every single person is a journalist. If I'm saying something here right now, somebody will put it on Twitter and all that, and there are other people who say, no, Mr. Wahab, this is absolutely wrong. This is not, information management was a was a very important aspect of the government in the past, because they could easily manipulate information. You cannot do it. It's out there. There are cameras, there are people. Even if every single person who has a camera is a reporter. So if somebody tells me, oh, Jeddah is burning, and I'm reporting, I'm here on the coordinates, nothing happened on the seaside, I'm here walking. You've seen so many videos coming out from Iran or something saying that, where the hell, where is the bombing taking place? There's nothing happening here. I'm here sitting here having a cup of tea or something. So you cannot have information management, as they used to call it. It was a very, very good word, kind of management, which is basically censorship. But you cannot do information management. You can seize the narrative. You can send 10,000 bots, 10,000 tweets, kind of thing, to set up a certain narrative by changing or manipulating the algorithm. That's the only thing you can do. So when you are on Instagram, you will be able to see only that people who are promoting their post or something, and the real post may only get 3 likes or 4 likes, but that's the one that is carrying the truth, kind of thing. This is an informed decision that you have to make. Thank you, Zaf. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Seeing the role of AI, artificial intelligence, like during this war, Iran, USA, and Israel, there were many videos that were AI generated and different. So, how Arab News or as managing editor, you use AI in the news media house?
So we don't believe in the videos at all. I mean, this will come as a news to you. The problem with social media is that everything has become doubtful. So Madam Rekha, I'm watching a speech of Madam Rekha, and I don't know, is this Madam Rekha herself or is this AI generated video? I don't know. If there is something about a report here from Aurangabad, I don't know if it is true, because I don't any longer believe what comes on social media. I don't know. AI has completely changed the dynamics of news media, and we don't know what to believe and what not to believe. So every time you see a post, a video on Facebook or any social media app, the first thing that occurs to you is, I don't know, but this is what I've seen. Then you go back to the sources, to the original sources. Why? Because you want to verify that news. Newspapers, in our newspaper, because we have multiple checking, multiple sources, we do not print anything that is in the realm of doubt. Unless and until something is corroborated by 2 or 3 sources, and not 2 or 3 sources, any sources, 2 or 3 independent sources, we will not put that something into our newspaper. Our policy is very clear. You are as good as your last story. The last story has to be very good, has to be factually checked, has to be factually verified, has to be taken from 3 independent sources. Only then we will put it in the newspaper. That's why I keep telling you again and again, even today, when people post reports from Lokmat Times or Times of India or Divya Marathi or anywhere, they still resort to the PDF. We still read the stuff in the PDF just to ensure. Why? Because a report that is online can always be changed at that moment. A newspaper cannot be changed. A newspaper that is printed for life. It will be there in the file forever. When you do documentaries and all that, what do? When we have all these documentaries that are on Netflix and all that, people reproduce the front pages of that newspaper about that particular news. Why do they do that? Because that is a certificate of merit, because that is a certificate of authenticity. And that is what we do in Arab News as well. Fact checking, because for us, credibility is the most important thing that we have earned over the last 50 years. And that is something that we cannot compromise with any bad, wrong, or fake news. Thank you.